Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hesham Tillawi. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we are going to have a different program for you. We always talk about wars and bad stuff happening around the world in this civilized world that we live in. And then I got to thinking, what in the world is a civilized world? Is it when we are more civilized, we don't kill each other, or we're not as bad as the vicious world? I mean, civilized compared to what? What is our reference point here? At one time, I believed that we were living in a civilized world when the United States and the Soviet Union were on each other's throats, but they did not go to war. As a matter, at least not directly, but they did go here and there using proxies. But at least we did not have a huge war like we have now. So what happened? Did we lose our civilization? Or with modernization, we don't lose our viciousness? Well, tonight, in the first hour, we will have Jacque Fresco. Jacque wants to basically redesign the world. He wants to redesign the whole society. I don't think Jacque is going to be successful with this, but we will see. Jacque wants to redesign cities, basically redesign the whole society. And I'm talking about redesigning a whole city. I'm talking about also redesigning our social system, our thinking, that maybe after all this is said and done, that we might have the civilization that we all aspire to. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to live in this civilization that we have. And what Jacque has done, before we go to show you what the project that Jacque is involved in the second hour, ladies and gentlemen, we will have Ed Ward, who will talk to us about 9/11, where he believes that there were small nukes, actually, that had destroyed these buildings. Now, you know, we can't get away from 9/11, as you see, but in the first hour, it would be a nice shift, just kind of get your mind off of world problems and dream with Jacque on the world that he would like to see us live in. And Jacque has founded the Venus Project, and what the Venus Project is, this is coming off of his website. The Venus Project presents a bold new direction for humanity that entails nothing less than the total redesign of our culture. Also, bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm under the weather a little bit, so if I have to sneeze or cough, just bear with me. I will do my best not to. There are many people today who are concerned with the serious problems that face our modern society: unemployment, violent crime, replacement of humans by technology, overpopulation, and a decline in the Earth's ecosystems. As you will see, the Venus Project is dedicated to confronting all of these problems by actively engaging in the research, development, and application of workable solutions through the use of innovative approaches to social awareness, educational incentives, and the consistent application of the best that science and technology can offer directly to the social system. The Venus Project offers a comprehensive plan for social reclamation in which human beings, technology, and nature will be able to coexist in a long-term, sustainable state of dynamic equilibrium. Sounds pretty good. We're going to see about a 15-minute video on what the Venus Project is all about, and then we will have Jacque. He will join us after we show you the video. He will join us, and we welcome your phone calls to speak with him and ask him whatever questions. He is really open for any questions that you might have. So if we do have that videotape ready, let's go ahead and go to the videotape, and we will be right back after the videotape with Jacque Fresco.
nation without a vision of what the future can be is bound to repeat past errors over and over again. This brief video will outline a vision designed to avoid old mistakes. A vision of efficiency, sustainability, and intelligent planning can lead us into a marvelous new world of unlimited human potential. Designing the future. This vision could be a showcase of what the world can be in our cybernated age. Science and technology could be used for human betterment and the restoration and protection of the environment, serving as an example of the intelligent application of a systems approach. While some people advocate the restoration of existing, worn-out cities, these efforts fall short of the potentials of modern technology. Repairing outmoded cities results in higher costs of operation and maintenance. It is actually less expensive in the long run to build newer cities from the ground up than to restore and maintain old ones. A total city system approach requires overall planning to attain a higher standard of living for all the city's occupants. The circular arrangement efficiently permits the most sophisticated use of available resources and construction techniques with a minimum expenditure of energy. This can make available to all people the most advanced amenities that modern science and technology can provide. It could be the hub and learning center where people from all over the world visit and hopefully emulate this design approach in other parts of the world. Design considerations for these new cities include its overall functioning, its ease of assembly, the reduction of maintenance, efficient transportation, and its simplicity and durability. This will include the flexibility to permit ongoing and later changes. The city would function as an evolving, integrated organism rather than a static structure. This systems approach envisions assembling entire cities by standardizing basic structural elements, which are prefabricated in automated plants and assembled on site. Many of these buildings would be comprised of standard units that can be arranged to meet many different requirements. This approach means that these cities can be extremely cost-efficient because only one sector needs to be designed, which can be duplicated repeatedly for the completion of an entire city. Our approach makes it possible to sell or license these building methods and designs as totally integrated city systems anywhere in the world. The outer perimeter will be part of the recreational area with golf courses, hiking and biking trails, and opportunities for water sports. Inside this area, a waterway surrounds an agricultural belt with indoor and outdoor agriculture. Continuing toward the city center, 8 green sectors provide clean, renewable resources of energy using wind, solar, and heat concentrators. Waste recycling and other services are located beneath the city. The plan utilizes the best of clean technology in harmony with the surrounding environment. The residential district features beautiful landscaping with lakes and winding streams, a wide range of creative, innovative apartment buildings, and individual unique homes will provide many options for the occupants. New and innovative methods of fast mass construction for housing and building systems will inject composite materials into a mold and then extrude the form upward. In some cases, multiple city apartments can be produced as continuous extrusions, which are then separated into individual units. Cranes transport these prefabricated dwellings to site locations. They are then lifted and inserted into a support structure. The apartments are lightweight and high strength. All of the dwellings are designed as self-contained residences. The outer surface of these efficient structures serve as photovoltaic generators, converting solar radiation directly into electricity for heating, cooling, and other needs. The thermocouple effect will also be used for generating electricity. The wide range of individual homes are prefabricated and relatively maintenance-free, fire resistant, and impervious to weather. With this type of construction, there'll be little or no damage from floods, earthquakes, or hurricanes. Their thin shell construction can be mass-produced efficiently and economically. New energy-efficient systems can be installed to supply enough power to operate the entire household. Adjacent to the residential district are planning, science, and research centers. 8 domes surrounding the central dome house art, music, exhibition, entertainment, and conference centers. Lovely parks, lakes, streams, and waterfalls are located throughout the entire city. The Central Dome, or Theme Center, contains schools, healthcare, shopping, communications networking, and childcare. It is also the core for most transportation services, which move people by transveyors horizontally, vertically, and radially anywhere in the city. This minimizes the need for automobile transportation, except for emergency vehicles. Transportation between cities would be by monorail. The Central Dome will eventually house a cybernated complex, which serves as the brain and nervous system of the entire city. It projects a 3D virtual image of Earth using satellite communication systems which display information on weather, agriculture, transportation, and the operation of the whole city. This cybernated system will use environmental sensors to help maintain a balanced load economy, which avoids overruns and shortages. For example, in the agricultural belt, electronic probes monitor and maintain the soil conditions, water table, nutrients, and more. This method of electronic feedback can be applied to the entire city complex. With computers now able to process trillions of bits of information per second, they are vital for arriving at correct decisions for the management of these innovative cities. Some of the cities may be total enclosure systems, which are self-sufficient. These massive structures would contain residences, parks, recreation, entertainment, healthcare, educational facilities, and more. Everything built in these cities would be as near to a self-contained system as conditions allow. In these total enclosure arrangements, the skyscraper assures that more land is available for parks and wilderness preserves, while at the same time eliminating urban sprawl. Wherever possible, geothermal energy can be harnessed. Geothermal power offers the possibility of an abundant source of clean energy. This source alone could provide enough energy for the next 1,000 years. National transportation systems would include a network of waterways and canals. These bodies of water could minimize the threat of floods and droughts by diverting floodwaters to storage basins. In addition, these canals could supply water for irrigation, fish farms, and recreation. The canals can also be used for desalination using a method of evaporative condensation. A network of tunnels could facilitate transportation of passengers and freight across the Sahara Desert to all the Arab nations, free of the effects of sandstorms. These tunnels will be located 30 to 40 feet below the desert surface, with ventilators every 1,000 feet. Water could be pumped from below the surface of the Sahara and transported to all the Arab nations. In some instances, ships could serve as floating automated plants, capable of processing raw materials into finished products while en route to their destinations. Huge ships and submarines, with many removable and interchangeable compartments, will carry freight across the oceans. Rather than separate containers, an entire freight section can be automatically disengaged at the port. Bridge designs would be greatly simplified, and bridges can be made corrosion resistant. They would be prefabricated and transported to the site by twin-hulled catamarans. On some bridges, trains could be suspended beneath traffic lanes. colonization of the oceans is one of the last frontiers remaining on Earth. Prodigious oceanic city communities will evolve as artificial islands, floating structures, undersea observatories, and more. These large marine structures are designed to explore the relatively untapped riches of the oceans and provide improved mariculture, freshwater production, energy, and mining. This could offset land-based shortages. They could also provide almost unlimited riches in pharmaceuticals, chemicals, fertilizers, minerals, oil, and natural gas. Ocean cities would be resistant to earthquakes and greatly relieve land-based population pressures. The population would vary from several hundred to many thousand. Underwater oceanic viewing and research facilities provide expansive panoramic observations of the undersea world in its natural habitat without disturbing the ocean environment. Unsinkable floating sea domes will attract those who prefer unique offshore or island living. In the event of inclement weather, they could easily be towed ashore, mounted, and anchored to elevated support structures. Mariculture and sea farming systems are used to cultivate and raise fish and other forms of marine life to help meet nutritional needs. These marine enclosures are designed as non-contaminating, integral parts of the ocean environment. A True World's Fair of the future will emphasize the contributions made by all nations toward advancing humanity. Although this fair will provide entertainment, its main function is to deepen understanding of the world we live in and the people who inhabit it. The architectural structures themselves will be jewels of future possibilities, with a wide variety of plays will depict not what the future will be, but what it can be, if we use science and technology with human and environmental concerns. It could be a vivid future showcase of the human potential. Videos, three-dimensional displays, and full-size dioramas will depict the fabulous advantages for all nations when working together to preserve the greatest gift we have, the resources and beauty of our planet Earth. In the final analysis, we are one people and share one planet. If you desire more information on any of the systems seen in this video, visit our website at www.thevenusproject.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen the video, and this is what Jacque Fresco have designed, and he believes that we really can conserve energy. We're going to have Jacque with us in a few minutes, but he really believes that we can conserve energy and conserve the Earth's resources by completely redesigning our cities. In his mind, we went to the moon, and science has taken us into where we never been before. But when it comes to the way we live and our inhabitant, it seems like we have not really done much progress in that area. We are still very much doing things like we did them 100 years ago, as far as like designing buildings and designing our cities. Now, in his models, he thinks that we will have a totally different society just by the way we live. He wants to redesign the whole culture, and by redesigning these cities, like redesigning humanity. We went through, I think he's probably right if you really think about it. We have been stagnant for a long time in our civilizations, the way we live. Maybe modern science had added air conditions and added the car and different methods of transportation. We're not using horses anymore, the horse and carriage. But he believes that we really can do a lot, and we can do a lot by rethinking the way we live. I'm sure you have a lot of questions for Jacque when he comes on, and we will definitely have a lot of questions of how he's thinking about, you can redesign a building, you can redesign a city. And I like his approach of disposable cities. Basically, that's what his design is. So if a city doesn't work, we can always dispose of it. Or a replacement, just take your apartment out and get a new apartment and plug it in your building. That would be something very nice to do if we are able to. But I'm not really sure how he would redesign the culture, how he would redesign human beings. I believe he thinks that we will be more peaceful and we will be able to coexist together with technology and earth. I mean, that's the material, that's the three materials that we have, or the three, we're trying to coexist, we're trying to get technology to help us coexist with earth. But I think the way we are doing it, we are using our resources and we are using Mother Earth in ways that was never intended for us to use. He really believes that we can harness huge amount of energy from, and much cleaner energy, from the sun. The sun has a tremendous amount of energy. And therefore, I believe that we can. And I really believe so, and I'm sure a lot of you believe that with new technology, we might be able to use and reserve some of the Earth's resources. Do we have Jacque with us? Can you, Jacque, can you hear me? Go to break. Okay. All right, I'm told to go to break, so we will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for that little glitch there, as we are trying to get Jacque. Jacque, you with us?
This month.
Can you hear me?
The end of this month.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I believe we have him on, but Jacque, are you there?
Do I have to keep pressing?
Jacque, are you with us? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good, great. I'm glad we finally were able to fix the audio problem, because I could hear you, but apparently you could not hear me. Jacque, welcome to the show. We've been watching some of your designs, and it looks great. Tell me, Jacque, I mean, do you think by redesigning cities, we will be able to redesign culture? Tell me, how is that supposed to work?
No, not at all. If you wish me to elaborate, I will. It is not the design of cities that can save nations. Well, if we wish to put an end to war, most crime, and most of the social problems that exist today, we have to declare all of the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people. Nothing less will do. And we have to evolve toward a resource-based economy so that you better understand the meaning of a resource-based economy. If you are stranded on an island with lots of gold and money, if the island has no water, no topsoil, no fish, you have nothing. So the real value of a nation or the world is its resources. some people believe that what we need is intelligent people or humane people in government. If you ran out of resources, no matter how humane you were, there would still be chaos and corruption. So it is not decent people that we need, nor is it the passing of new laws. Nor is it the passing of new laws or treaties with other nations. They will be broken, all treaties and all laws, if people are deprived of the means whereby they can live. When few nations control most of the Earth's resources, there will always be territorial disputes, conflict, disagreement. What is needed is the intelligent management of the Earth's resources. Did that come through all right?
Yes, we hear you fine. So now you're thinking of, now how would that redesign culture though? Can you explain that?
How can it be installed?
How can you redesign culture?
We're trying to produce at this time a motion picture called And the World Will Be One. This motion picture shows how we get from here to there. It's a story of the necessity of declaring the earth the common heritage of all nations. Remember that all powerful nations had actually taken the land from other people. Even America, we took this land from the Indians by force and violence. This goes to France, England, all the nations of the world are basically corrupt. And there's no way you're going to bring the nations together until there's a social and economic breakdown. Unfortunately, I do not advocate this, but it would take a common threat to bring all the nations together. For example, if a media of a very large size were headed toward the earth, all wars would stop immediately. All nations would work cooperatively toward confronting this problem. We do not have the foresight to see the breakdown of our economy. Of course, throughout history, all things change. And there's no way any nation can freeze their concept into a workable system. Eventually, all systems undergo change. And so we have to come to a resource-based economy in which money is no longer used. Money, barter, servitude, and debt must be eradicated. And we have to produce such an abundance of goods and services and make it available to all people. I know that sounds difficult, but this is the only way we can avoid all the crimes that occur in our society. Even in high places of government, there's a great deal of corruption, and it cannot be ended as long as there's a monetary system or a money system. This was designed hundreds of years ago, and it's no longer adequate. We now have the technology and technique for producing an abundance for all people. Today, the middle-class American or the middle-class person in any developed country lives better than kings. In other words, you have air conditioning in your car, you have television. No king ever had access to that. And when technology is let loose, the problems in the world today are not political. They're technical in nature. Everything that you have in your home that you enjoy is either electric lights or television or radio or vehicle or sailboat. They're all technical. It has nothing to do with politics whatsoever. Politics was great a couple of 100 years ago, but it's no longer adequate. No matter who you elect to political office, it will not work unless they solve the problems of scarcity and making all the necessities of life available to all people without a price tag.
Now, Jacque, how would you, do you want to do away with all government?
No, they will fail. You don't have to do away with anything. There's a thing called biosocial pressures. If we behave in violation of natural law, we will starve. If we continue to pollute the oceans, the air around us, and pay little respect for the land and not protect the environment, we will pay for that. It has nothing to do with shooting anybody or revolution. This is called biosocial pressures that change things.
Okay, who's going to take the first step? Are we talking about governments taking the first steps? Who's going to start? I mean, I know you started this process, but how is it going to be implemented on the ground?
Okay. If we succeed in producing this motion picture called And the World Will Be One, if we succeed in getting it out all over the world, when the breakdown comes, they won't repeat the same process over again. They know there is another world, and that other world will only come about after the social breakdown. No one's about to give up their factories or industries, and if anyone tells you that they can, well, this is not so. In other words, politicians and leaders in different nations have never anticipated the future. They are elected to political positions to keep things as they are. People are not elected to change things. They're elected to keep the things just as they are. And as long as you have money and territorial aggression, because there's scarcity, this is why you have territorial aggression. I'd like to say this about people. All people are law-abiding citizens. They obey natural law. In other words, if there's scarcity in the land, then there's territorial disputes. That's what I mean by natural law. You can't legislate human behavior. Most man-made laws are artificial. All man-made treaties are artificial. That's to keep nations that are already in the powerful positions in that position continuously. This will not work. All systems of government will eventually break down unless we declare the earth as common heritage. That means without the artificial boundaries made by people that separate people. I understand that this is a tough thing to understand immediately within an hour, which is very difficult for me to present. I just want to say that in the future, if man is to survive, if people are to survive, if humanity is to survive, they must come together and declare the earth common heritage. Otherwise, there'll be a repeat of the same problems over and over again. Remember this, that with all your science and all your technology and all your books and all the universities, the wars today are worse than ever. The weapons are more destructive than they've ever been. So as far as I'm concerned, most of the universities, most of the education out there has nothing whatsoever to do with changing the world. And so I want to remind you again that it will not come about by decent or ethical people. The system has to fall on its face, and this film has to be out there to suggest a probable direction that can solve these problems. Until the film's out there, they will only repeat the same problems over again. Once the film's out there, people will have a different frame of reference. Not all people will accept this point of view. I'm just saying the degree to which they reject it, human suffering will continue and problems will continue. This is something you can't force down people's throat. You can't introduce it by declaring that people behave this way. A film has to be presented to people showing the advantages gained by declaring the earth common heritage. If you still don't understand me, the cost of World War II could have housed everyone on earth, could have built hospitals all over the world, could have wiped out poverty all over the world. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't have intelligent life on earth at this time. You know, we're searching for intelligent life out there while there's no intelligent life yet down here. So I'm saying this, that the most intelligent people on Earth today are trained in specific areas: optics, medicine, botany, chemistry, engineering, but in the future they'll be trained as generalists, so they understand sociology, psychology, the history of human development. It takes that type of knowledge to engineer society to a working position.
So, Jacque, are we talking about like socialism here? Is that what we're talking about?
Not at all. Socialism and communism are too old-fashioned. They're not modern enough for today's society. See, socialism and communism major concerns are with the working class and the underprivileged. We are using automation, and we do not use human systems in government. They've never worked. I don't care what kind of name you assign. They use a word like democracy. You hear that word all the time. Whenever you hear democracy and freedom, watch out. It means that you're nowhere near that. We've never had a democracy. You cannot have a democracy unless people have equal purchasing power and equal health and equal education. In other words, they're educated to how the earth operates. In other words, the systems for operating a future society are not based on consensus. They're based on the carrying capacity of the earth. The earth can support so many people, and it takes so much arable land and so much fish farms and so much energy to propel a society of the future. So it has nothing whatsoever to do with all the nations sitting down, engaging in conversation. The first thing that has to be done is a global survey of the Earth's resources. In turn, that will tell us what the parameters for the design of a future culture can be. Not what Fresco likes or what any group of people think ought to be appropriate. And if you still don't understand me, if you land on a planet with no resources, no water, no arable land, you can support no people. So it's the carrying capacity of the earth that will determine the direction, the social direction of the future economy of the world. Until we realize that, we will have the same problems over and over again: crime, murder, assassination, territorial disputes.
So, Jacque, how expensive these projects would be? Some of these projects that we saw in the DVD, how expensive would this be to build?
Well, the first thing is that we get this film out. If we don't get the film out, it will not occur. So this film is about the future, because all that the average person wants to know is what's in it for me. They really don't want to know anything else. So you have to prepare a film that shows how this future design of common heritage will benefit the lives of everyone.
So, I mean, again, how could people afford all this?
Oh, there's no money used. It's like the public library. Before the existence of the public library, there was a lot of protest marches. People said, you can't make books available to people. That will interfere with free enterprise. Finally, they got the public library in. When they got it in, people read more, and they bought more books, which was surprising to a lot of people. So we're going to have access centers in the new city where any child or any adult can walk in and check out a camera, roller skates, art material, musical instruments. We make it available to everyone without a price tag. Let me repeat that. Without a price tag. Barter, money, or trade. We make things available to people. When things are available to people, they become more amiable. No one's going to hit you on the head and take your watch or your wallet if they have access to clean air, clean water, housing, food. You see, crime is a byproduct of that state of social evolution in which there's great scarcity. The elimination of scarcity is the #1 problem. And then a relevant education. That means people will be educated as to how the earth operates, how we depend on the forest and the ecology of the land, and how to take care of the oceans and not pollute the atmosphere or the oceans or the land. This is the kind of education you get in the future. which is based on sustainability, have nothing to do with ethics, decency, moral laws, or religion. It is a way of living in terms of the carrying capacity of the environment you're in. No matter how many laws you pass, a senator will use so many kilogram calories to climb the steps to the White House. And there's no way a senator can wipe out the law of gravity. In other words, we have to learn the physical factors that are responsible for permitting society to exist, and then design a society based on the carrying capacity of the environment. If this information doesn't register, if we fail to grasp the significance of the application of science to the methods of science, I'm not talking about a society run by scientists, because they're just as backward as anyone else. The proof of that is when Hitler got into power, many of the scientists fell in line and began to design weapons. They're not scientists. They're tools used by society. Today, there are very few scientists. There are people educated in engineering, technology, electronics. They are not scientists. A scientist would be trained in ecology, world government, how different cultures operate, social anthropology, social psychology. They'll be trained in how to look at different nations without judging them, except their phase in evolution, and how to bridge the difference between nations. And that is not difficult to bridge the difference between nations. The way we do it is by emphasizing the areas we have in common. All the world's people need clean air, clean water, and arable land. They need health care, medical care throughout their lives. And so these are the things we have in common, and these are the areas that will bring the world toward unification, not speeches about decency and ethics and humanism. What is needed is a clear concept of just how we relate to the world. For example, a lot of environmentalists are against cutting down the forest, but most of them live in wooden houses. Think about that. As long as you have huge stores that sell lumber, they're going to continue to cut down the forest. As long as there's money in it, as long as the bottom line is profit, you're not going to see any severe or real social change.
So, Jacque, where does religion, what do you think about religion? Where do you have it in all this?
Well, actually, if you're religious, think about this. If you're religious and you follow the teachings of Jesus, Jesus said, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." There's no business, no private property, no social stratification. So you see, this is a translation of all religious teachings into a way of life, not paper proclamations. Paper proclamations are false. You know we don't have equal rights in this country or any other country. The United States is just one of the most corrupt nations on earth, along with all the other nations. So I do not advocate socialism, communism, fascism, or free enterprise. We're talking about a totally different system. And if you wish to get real detailed information, check our website, thevenusproject.com. I'll repeat that again, thevenusproject.com. Now, we have videotapes on self-erecting structures, we have videotapes on cities in the sea, and we have tapes and books available. One is called The Best That Money Can't Buy. It's about a system without money and how it operates, and how to get from here to there. I really don't have the time to go into all detail, but I'll try to answer as many questions as you can pose. So go right ahead and ask further questions.
One question that kind of pops in my head is, do you see the different cultures getting closer together, and eventually, before this whole thing is said and done, are we going to have like one culture in the world?
Not really, but the culture will be based upon the carrying capacity of the earth, not a word like democracy, freedom, socialism, or communism, or fascism. There will be a system that recognizes the essential interrelationship between the environment and human beings. And once we learn that, we will take care of the oceans, the land, keep the air clean, because this is the mechanism whereby we survive, not some political, theoretical, philosophical ideology.
So the motion picture that you are working on,
Yes.
is it going to be redesigning the culture into more of a Western culture, or where the whole world eventually is going to be more westernized?
If we don't include the world, let's say that we just do it in the United States. Well, if North Korea develops nuclear weapons and tests them, they're poisoning the atmosphere all over the world. You can no longer live as a nation to yourself. You have to build a bridge between the nations, and you have to invite common heritage so that there are no artificial boundaries that separate people. Like I said before, all people need clean air, clean water, a relevant education. That means an education that has a lot to do with how the earth and its resources relate to human need. The kind of education you get today is irrelevant. For example, there'll be no bankers, no stockbrokers, no advertising, no sales personnel. There'd be no professions that do not contribute to the well-being of all the world's people.
Now, I mean, I have to come back to the same question. I mean, you know, societies and different cultures and these bridges that you would like to build, it's going to be built on basically, you know, some of these cultures are going to have to lose its identity in order to build these bridges between these societies, and eventually we're going to have one society, like one fits all society.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. For example, if you go to Saudi Arabia or any country, Dubai or France or England or China, you'll see cell phones, electric generators. These are the areas we have in common, technology. Philosophically, we disagree, but you'll notice as time goes on, there's automobiles all over the world, air conditioning all over the world. These are the things we have in common. So when I say our problems are not philosophical, they're not traditional, maintaining traditional practices. Just remember, if you're a traditionalist, years ago, the Romans used to take their families to see Christians being fed to the lions. This was a normal activity. So what we consider right and normal today, or traditional, is really dangerous. But we don't see that because we're brought up in a world that's loaded with confusion. In fact, what they teach you in school is really not information. It's more propaganda than education. And this is very difficult for most people to grasp. When you're brought up in a given culture, it seems right and normal to you. So if you ask me, am I going to permit tradition? There's nothing to do with my values. It has to do with learning how to use the earth's resources intelligently, not wastefully, and make sure that every nation and every person on earth has access to the necessities of life, and to maintain a population in perfect accord with the carrying capacity of the earth.
Now,
I'm
John,
against the space project for this at this time because we are not wise enough to use space intelligently. Once we learn to live together on Earth in peace, let's then go on a joint venture into space. If you let the nations develop independently and launch vehicles out into space, I can assure you it would be loaded with nuclear weapons, cobalt bombs, and other things. We are not sane enough yet to venture out into space independently.
now
Again, you don't have to agree with me. That's not what I seek. I do not seek to please people. I do not seek to find agreement. There was a time when most people believed the earth was flat. That doesn't make it right. And what most people believe does not make it right. Or what the consensus is of the world's people doesn't make it workable either. So what you have to consider is, do our values or does our education coincide with the carrying capacity of the earth? And this is what all nations have in common. Whether they like technology or not, you will find, as I have found, technology growing throughout the world, meaning air conditioning, electric generators, water filters. This is where the problems lie. So our major problem is providing clean sources of energy to build a high-energy global civilization. That means tapping volcanic sources of energy. Now, that's available throughout the world. If you're not familiar with that,
Jacque.
in Iceland, they grow bananas and tropical plants all year round using natural
Jacque, can you hear me?
energy.
Okay, Jacque, you are working with the Chinese on designing a city over there in China. Tell me about your Chinese project.
We are working on establishing that at this time. But I'm really not interested in designing just a city in China or Saudi Arabia or Dubai. I'm interested in a global system. I wish to start somewhere, and this is what we have to do in order to show or prove the workability of a resource-based economy.
Okay. Now, we only have like a couple of minutes left. The DVD that we saw, that was a project that was supposed to be implemented in Saudi Arabia or something?
Yes. Now, William Jacque just produced a documentary called The Future by Design. It's on the work I've been doing most of my life. It'll be out in about a month. The film was produced again by William Jacque. It's called The Future by Design. It's about this kind of thinking, and it'll go probably tour the world. So keep that in mind. And if you want further information, check again on thevenusproject.com. It's all one word, thevenusproject.com.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity of presenting these ideas. I appreciate that very much.
Yes, Jacque. Jacque, thank you for being on the show as we are out of time. Hopefully we'll have you back here soon with new projects. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's really great ideas and great project, and I don't know how it could be implemented after these thousands of years of, you know, you almost need like a nuclear war and just kill everybody and then start humanity all over again with these same ideas that Jacque is talking about. You know, I really can't see it. Maybe you can. I really can't see how we can go from the society that we have that is built on the monetary system that we have now. Of course, this monetary system started a long time ago, and we very much we're bound to it. And that's why we have countries that are poor, countries that even have more resources than some of these rich countries. Believe me, some of these poor countries in Africa have resources 10 times of what England has. That's why they invaded them 2 centuries ago. We have countries in Africa that has more resources than probably most of the main countries in Europe, but they are very poor. And I believe if we can come up with a system that could use these resources and have everybody use these resources where everyone will live happily ever after, I don't know. I will wait until we see the movie, and hopefully the movie will have a redesign of the whole culture. Believe it or not, a lot of movies have, throughout the movie history, there are some movies that have affected the way we live, affected the way society lives. And definitely TVs and Hollywood is doing a good job in creating and shaping and reshaping our society. Whatever you think about this, you know, it's up to you, but hopefully we can have a world where everyone can live in harmony. There's nothing wrong with that. I would love to live in one of those high-rise buildings and in one of those cities. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back in 5 minutes with Ed Ward. He thinks that nukes is what brought down 9/11, and we will take your phone calls in the second hour. We will be right back.
I'm Jim Richard.